I was planted in the middle of the open office space, holding my resignation letter, and Derek Lancaster, my boss, was sneering at me from his fancy mahogany desk. "You're leaving?" he sneered, reclining in his leather chair. As he folded his arms, his pricey watch sparkled under the overhead lights. "To launch your own company? Oh, that's priceless." I suppressed my frustration, maintaining a calm tone. "Yes, Derek, I've made up my mind." The whole office had suddenly fallen silent. My coworkers, who had once been my pals, were now staring at me with a sense of fascinated curiosity. Derek erupted in a loud, derisive laugh. "You running a business," he addressed the others. "Listen to this, everyone. Madeline here thinks she can be a CEO." There were a few hesitant laughs, but most people stayed quiet, squirming in their seats. Derek leaned in, his eyes shining with a certain enjoyment. "Remember my words, Maddie. You'll be back here in 2 months, pleading for your job." And then he smirked, adding, "I'll make sure to bring up this moment right before I deny you." I clenched my fists, but forced myself to smile. "We'll see about that." And with that, I turned and left, resolved to prove him incorrect. Those initial weeks were incredibly tough. I had invested all of my savings into starting my digital marketing firm. My small apartment transformed into my workplace, and my kitchen table functioned as my workspace. I was barely getting any sleep at all. I relentlessly contacted possible clients. The majority didn't reply, a few ridiculed me, and a couple gave me patronizing advice about being sensible. But finally, one client decided to give me an opportunity. An e-commerce startup that was having problems needed a complete brand makeover. I poured my heart and soul into it, and it paid off. The good news traveled fast. The positive outcomes were clear. Very soon, one client became 3, then 5, and then 10. That's when I formed my company, Elevate Digital. As I was working tirelessly to make my dream a reality, Derek's company, Lancaster Marketing, was failing. His excessive pride had made him blind. He disregarded market changes, wouldn't try new things, and had damaged his relationships with clients. The company was losing a lot of money. Important people left. Then came the news. Lancaster Marketing had declared bankruptcy. I reread the headline, allowing it to really hit me. The same company that Derek used to make me feel small was now falling apart. And then I understood. A chance that I couldn't ignore. 2 months after Derek had laughed at me, I was sitting with a corporate lawyer going over the legal documents. "You're certain about this purchase, Ms. Carter?" the lawyer inquired, adjusting his glasses. I grinned. "Absolutely." The following morning, Lancaster Marketing was officially mine. However, I didn't just purchase it. I resurrected it, saving what I could and combining it with my expanding business. And the best moment arrived, telling Derek the news. Derek had been under the impression that he was being summoned to a meeting with the corporation's new proprietor. He swaggered into the conference room, as per usual. Then he spotted me, his complexion turned white. "No. You've got to be joking." I leaned back in the seat where he used to sit, my fingers touching in front of me. Surprise. Derek's jaw tightened. You acquired my firm, your old business," I clarified with a slight grin. He seemed like he'd just been hit in the stomach. His hands shook as he held onto the chair across from me. His voice broke. "Madeline, please. This is business. You don't have to do this." "Do what?" "Terminate your employment, similar to how you plan to dismiss me." I cocked my head. "Don't worry, Derek. I don't bear a grudge." He exhaled with a visible sense of relief. But I then added, "I don't reward bad performance either. Consider today your last day." His face fell apart. I could see the sheer fear in his eyes, the magnitude of his failure overwhelming him. However, I wasn't a mean person. Unlike him, I valued second opportunities. There's a small agency located downtown that might benefit from a seasoned marketing director, I said, getting up. The compensation won't be quite as extravagant as you're used to, but it's preferable to having nothing. Derek stared at me, completely shocked. Why would you aid me?" I gave a shrug. "Because unlike you, I know how beneficial it is to build people up." And with that, I exited just as I had done 2 months earlier. But this time, I wasn't the one departing in defeat. Leaving that meeting room, my heart rate gradually decreased, even though the excitement still buzzed within me. It all felt unreal. Derek Lancaster, the guy who'd embarrassed me in front of the whole staff, was just there, silent, gazing at what was left of his crumbling domain. This win felt good, though it also felt more complicated than I'd thought. I took a deep breath, gently shaking my head. I wouldn't rub it in. That wasn't the person I'd striven to be. I wanted to create something significant, something driven not by small-minded retribution, but by legitimate achievement. As I made my way through the hallway, employees, folks who had previously worked for Lancaster, were watching me, their faces showing a variety of feelings. Some appeared anxious, others felt a sense of relief, and a few seemed optimistic. I paused near the break room where a tiny gathering of people was murmuring to each other. A woman I recognized as Hannah, one of the newer marketing specialists, glanced at me and quickly averted her gaze. "Is everything all right?" I inquired, offering a slight smile. She paused for a second, then nodded. We weren't sure what would happen to us." Her comment affected me much more than I anticipated. Naturally, Derek's failure wasn't just his own, it also impacted everybody who had worked with him. "Listen," I replied, getting closer. "I'm not here to completely dismantle this company. I intend to rebuild it. The negativity is gone, but those who put in the effort and wish to stay, they're still welcome here." I saw it in their expressions, a sense of release. "That goes for you, Hannah," I stated. "I recall how you went above and beyond on those projects, while Derek disregarded your suggestions. I won't make the same mistake." She looked utterly surprised. You recall that?" I affirmed. "Absolutely. For the first time since I got here, the tightness in the atmosphere seemed to vanish. Perhaps, just maybe, this company could thrive again." Later that night, I was in my new office, the exact same office Derek used to have. The journey I'd been on settled heavily on me. Only 2 months ago, I left this place feeling utterly defeated, promising to prove myself. Now I was the owner. But was I truly content? I looked at the digital clock on my desk. It was after 10. Everyone had gone home, but I remained alone with my thoughts. I drummed my fingers on the desk. I still had a final task to accomplish. I picked up my phone and called a number I hadn't dialed in ages. After a few moments, a voice I knew well answered. "Madeline," I took a deep breath. "Hi, Mom." A long silence hung in the air. "I heard about what happened," she finally said. "Everyone's talking about you buying Lancaster Marketing." "Is it true?" I chuckled a little. "Yes, it's true." Another silence. Then she sighed. "You did it, sweetheart, you really did it." My breath caught in my throat, my heart racing as I considered what she'd said. I'd spent years striving to validate myself. It wasn't just about showing up Derek or the rest of the world, but also to my own flesh and blood. My mother always held reservations when it came to me taking chances. She preferred I stick with a dependable career and not gamble on starting something new. "Mom." I whispered. I wanted to make sure she knew that I wasn't just doing this as some sort of revenge against Derek. I was doing it for myself, to create something of my own. There was a brief pause. "Then I'm proud of you, Maddie." I smiled, shutting my eyes for just a moment. "Thanks, Mom." That really means the world. For the first time in ages, I found myself at peace, but my journey wasn't over. The following morning, I got to the office before everyone else, holding a fresh cup of coffee. I had a critical meeting with one of my most important clients, a partnership that could propel Elevate Digital to the very top. I sat down in my chair, and Jordan, my assistant, knocked and entered. "Madeline, Mr. Carter from Innovate Tech is here to see you." I nodded. "Send him in." A tall man dressed in a dark blue suit came inside, his expression inscrutable. "Ms. Carter," he said, putting out his hand. "Mr. Carter," I responded, shaking it with confidence. He sat across from me, laying a file on the desk. "Let's cut to the chase. I've been keeping an eye on your work. Your agency has promise, but I have to know, are you in this for the long term?" I locked eyes with him. "Absolutely." He examined me for a brief instant, then pushed the folder across the table. "Let's create something monumental, shall we?" I unzipped the folder and reviewed the papers contained within. My heart skipped a beat. Partnering with Innovate Tech would completely transform everything. It would secure my business's place as a leading force. I turned back to him, a grin on my face. "All right, let's proceed." A week afterward, I found an email from Derek Lancaster labeled a favor. I paused before clicking to open it. "Madeline, I am aware I don't deserve to request anything of you. I made some major errors, and I don't anticipate you'll forgive me. However, I'm in need of assistance. I lost everything, and nobody in this field will give me another opportunity. I am prepared to accept any position, even an entry-level one. If you'd consider giving me a job, I would be incredibly thankful. Derek, I gazed at the screen, a torrent of emotions coursing through me. Derek, the person who used to belittle me, was now asking for my aid. I considered simply deleting the email. I considered letting him experience the pain he caused me. But then I reminded myself of my values. I wrote my reply. Derek, everyone warrants a chance for redemption. Come to the office on Monday. You will begin as a junior consultant, the same role I previously held while working for you. Madeline, I clicked send. Perhaps Derek would evolve, perhaps he wouldn't. But I built my achievements on compassion and fortitude, not on resentment. That felt like the most satisfying victory imaginable. I got to the office early the day Derek was scheduled to begin. My goal was to observe how he'd manage working in a position far less prestigious than the one he was accustomed to. My assistant, Jordan, knocked tentatively on the door to my office. Madeline, Derek's here," he announced. I sensed the discomfort in his voice. "Send him in," I replied, smoothing down my blazer. A moment later, Derek walked into the office. He looked changed. The typical cockiness that had once been his trademark was absent. His high-end suits were exchanged for less extravagant attire. He seemed nervous and unsure, his posture revealing those feelings. I motioned for him to sit down. He paused before sitting down in the chair facing me. "You look good," I remarked, studying him. He gave a small, forced laugh. "You don't need to pretend, Madeline," I cocked my head. "You're right." "I don't." We sat in silence for a long time. It was odd to see him this way, subdued and uncertain. The very man who had once belittled me, the one who made me feel inadequate, was now sitting there, awaiting my acceptance. "You'll start as a junior consultant today," I finally stated. "Hannah will assign your tasks." "You recall her, correct?" His eyes showed a flicker of understanding. "Yeah, she used to be a junior marketer." "Not anymore," I clarified. "She's now the head of our marketing department." The truth of the situation dawned on me as I observed him. The very people he'd disregarded, brushed aside, and neglected had surpassed him. "You will now be reporting to her," I told him. Derek took a deep breath. "Understood," he said quietly. I shifted my weight. "Derek, you're here because I'm a firm believer in giving people a second chance. But if you even hint at the same arrogance you used to display, you're finished. No chances, no discussions." He nodded, his fingers interlaced. "I understand. I won't ruin this opportunity." "Good," I stated, standing up. "Now go and meet your new supervisor." The office hummed with gossip as Derek left my office. The people who had once answered to him now regarded him as an equal, no less than that. Hannah awaited him at her desk. Her face was blank. "Derek," she said. "Hannah," he replied a bit awkwardly. She gave him a file. "Here's your first task, a market assessment for our upcoming marketing initiative." "Due by Friday," Derek nodded, skimming the documents. "Understood." She paused, then added, "I really hope you approach this with sincerity. Everyone here remembers your past behavior." His mouth became a hard line, but he offered a small nod. "I realize I don't expect them to forget everything immediately." "Good," she said, and then turned back to her work, essentially ending the interaction. For the first time, Derek was just another regular employee. No special treatment, no respect, just another element in the organization. As time went on, I monitored Derek's actions closely. He dedicated himself to his work, remained quiet, and didn't voice any grievances. It felt unusual seeing him this way, as if he had become an entirely new person. However, I was still skeptical. As I was exiting the building one night, I saw him still at his workstation, fixated on his monitor, working late. I inquired, positioning myself near the doorway. He glanced up, massaging his eyes. "Yep, I suppose I'm stuck with these old routines," he replied. I moved in closer. "What's truly keeping you here, Derek? Is it simply a holding pattern until you claw your way back to the top?" He let out a breath, then shook his head. "No, Madeline, I lost everything. My good name, my self-assurance, my relationships. I had a lot of time to reflect after Lancaster marketing failed." I observed him thoughtfully. "And what did you come to understand?" He gave a small, wry laugh. "That I was a jerk." I arched an eyebrow. "That's putting it mildly." He chuckled again, though there was a hint of melancholy this time. I earned everything I lost, but I don't want to be that person anymore. I nodded slowly. Then show it, I told him. He looked at me, puzzled. Don't just declare that you've changed. I continued, demonstrate it. Reclaim the respect you squandered. For the first time, Derek met my eyes with genuine emotion. A resolute gleam shone there. I will, he said. I wasn't entirely convinced, but for the first time I was open to letting time pass. Time passed, becoming months. The firm prospered with me at the helm. Elevate Digital was now a respected entity, and Lancaster Marketing was no longer a symbol of defeat. It had become a launching pad for something better. And Derek, he worked harder than anyone else in the building. He sought no praise, he didn't crave recognition. I spotted Hannah conversing with him at some point. She didn't seem aloof like before. She was grinning. And he was returning the smile. Perhaps, just perhaps, a turnaround was conceivable. A year later, I was facing my workforce, speaking to them at our yearly company celebration. A year prior, I was present in this very building, though under vastly different conditions. I started. I returned not as a staff member, but as the proprietor. And today, I'm happy to state that we've constructed something remarkable. The audience burst into cheers. As I surveyed the space, I found Derek. He was positioned silently at the back, a look of quiet self-satisfaction on his features. Once the event concluded, he came over to me. You've created something wonderful, he mentioned. I smiled. We did, he agreed. Thanks, Madeline, for offering me another opportunity. I took a deep breath and then I put out my hand. He paused and then shook it. Don't ruin it, I said teasingly. He gave a small smile, wouldn't even consider it. For the first time, there was no self-importance, no inflated pride, just shared regard. And that was a triumph bigger than getting even. Operating a thriving company was not simply about proving a point. It was all about maintaining the prosperity, establishing a culture of high standards, and ensuring that Elevate Digital flourished. With our recent expansion and the purchase of Lancaster Marketing, our client list had basically doubled. However, growth inevitably brought difficulties. One afternoon, Jordan knocked on my office door, his face showing worry. Madeline, we've got a difficulty. I put my coffee down. What's the problem? A significant client, Westwood Enterprises, is on the verge of canceling their agreement. They believe we're failing to live up to their standards. I gave a slight frown. Westwood was one of our most crucial clients. If we lost them, it would be a catastrophe. I needed to schedule a meeting with their CEO. I'll manage this situation myself. 2 days later, I found myself inside Westwood Enterprises' main building. Their CEO, Jonathan Reese, welcomed me with a strong handshake, but immediately got down to business. Madeline, I admire what you've created, he told me. However, my team has some reservations. We don't believe your agency can manage the size of our future projects. I held his gaze steady and calm. Mr. Reese, I understand your anxieties. However, I don't think our abilities are the issue. It's about trust, he stated. He looked at me questioningly. You took a leap of faith with Elevate Digital, and now that we're expanding quickly, you're concerned we can't provide the same level of care. I pressed on. However, I want to reassure you, my team is extremely competent. As a matter of fact, I've personally made sure we have the top talent available, including individuals who previously worked for your company. That definitely caught his interest. You brought on ex-Westwood employees? He inquired, intrigued. I smiled. Let's just say that talent is drawn to the proper leadership. Reese gave a small laugh. You're certainly self-assured. I have to be, I replied. He considered me for a few seconds before nodding. Okay, Madeline. You have 2 months to convince me otherwise. Demonstrate that Elevate Digital is the correct choice. I held out my hand. You definitely won't feel bad about this. Gaining Westwood's confidence involved more than just making commitments. It was about producing tangible outcomes. I got my team together, making sure everyone was fully aware of the situation. We had 2 months to demonstrate to Westwood why they should keep us. This wasn't just about retaining a customer. It was about showing that we were the best at what we do. The atmosphere in the room immediately changed. Folks were eager to get involved. And unexpectedly, Derek offered to lead the project first. I know how Westwood operates, he explained. I was involved in their advertising initiatives back at Lancaster. I can be of assistance. I paused. This was a risky project, and giving Derek that much authority was a leap of faith. However, this was his opportunity to prove himself. Okay, I responded, don't disappoint me. Derek put in extra hours. He was always at the office earlier than anyone else and left long after everyone else had departed. He painstakingly reviewed data, examined market dynamics, and also mentored the newer employees. After a month, Hannah came to me. I believe Derek has transformed, she confessed. He is actually assisting people. I looked in the direction of the office, where Derek was describing a campaign plan to one of our newer employees. The old Derek would never have done that. Perhaps people really can change. The day of our presentation arrived. Reese and his executives were seated in front of me, anticipating my presentation. I took a deep breath and got started. For 60 minutes, I presented Elevate Digital's plan, highlighting its data-based, fresh, and custom-built approach designed for Westwood's development. After I wrapped up, Reese leaned back in his chair, his face a blank canvas. Suddenly, a smile appeared on his face. "Madeline, you've truly impressed me," he commented. "We'll stick with Elevate Digital, and I'd like to explore a larger agreement in the future." A wave of ease came over me. We had succeeded. That evening, I was in my office, gazing at the city lights. I had progressed significantly since the humiliation Derek caused to now constructing a business empire on my own terms. A tap on my door interrupted my thoughts. It was Derek. "I just wanted to express my gratitude," he stated, his tone sincere, "for giving me another opportunity." I acknowledged him with a nod. "You deserved it." He grinned, and for the first time I perceived something I never expected to see in him. Appreciation. As he walked out, I turned back to the window, allowing the situation to settle in. Success wasn't just about retribution. It was centered on progress, tenacity, and above all, demonstrating that I was unstoppable. And that feeling, that was the ultimate triumph.